was the president of the United States, I'd have a double jumper going across the White House gates. And a dirt track in every elementary school. In a mud dog in place of a swimming pool. Go!
What's up, everybody? This is episode 7 of the UpShift MX podcast. I'm your host, Zach Heron. Our guest today, he is the co-owner or full-time owner? How do you guys, you're the president and she's the vice president, correct?
I'm pretty sure she's the president. And
I think that's the way it goes too. But
really
yeah, president, co-president of FTI Racing, Cal Northrop. Cal, thanks for coming on. Yeah.
Hey, awesome to be here, man.
I'm stoked to have you.
Been watching your stuff out there. It's been pretty inspiring for me, considering we've known you since you were probably 14 years old.
Yeah, I was little.
Yeah, and I'm just proud to see you up here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's been cool. All the people that have helped me out throughout my racing career have kind of reached back out to me, and we had Paul obviously with Armored on a couple of weeks ago, and that was a cool story. And yeah, I'm excited to tell yours as well. You've got quite the little cross country trip that you guys have been doing, and you've dipped into some different sports and stuff like that. So it's going to be a good story.
Yeah, it's quite the adventure for a 55-year-old.
For anybody, absolutely.
Been one of those guys that have been blessed to have made a living in the racing industry.
Absolutely.
And anytime you can take something you're passionate about and turn it into a living, it's an awesome thing. But of course, sometimes it takes a little bit of passion out of it because it eventually becomes a job.
Yep,
that's right.
Exactly. Well, before we get into your story, I want to make sure we shout out my producer, Mark Miller. He's sitting over to the side. I forgot him that one week, and I've never lived it down since. And so I want to make sure everybody knows that he is the reason this sounds as good as it does, the reason it looks as good as it does. So I can't thank him enough. Like I said, I'm still really broke, and so I can't pay him. He's doing this all just because he's a good friend, and so I can't thank him enough. Thank you guys for having us out here, and then thank you to the fans as well. We've got some people that have been listening every week. Sounds like you're a loyal fan.
Yeah,
That means a lot, and so thank you guys for listening. Please like, subscribe, share it. We're trying to get this thing as big as we can so we can keep bringing these cool stories from all different areas of motorcycle racing and just action sports in general for everyone to listen to. So with that, I said I want it from the very beginning. So let's take it
the very
back.
beginning.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, basically I grew up in an awesome area in Southern California, and again I'm 55, so I'm old as dirt. Probably old enough to be your grandpa, but
my dad's 55.
Yeah, there you go.
He's not my grandpa. He's dad.
Yeah, he's just
old.
dad. And like any kid in the SoCal, every day is like a spring day.
Oh yeah.
It's 59 degrees at night and
I got
82 degrees in the daytime. It
was like 65 climate. And everyone was apologizing. They're like, the weather's so bad. It was like slightly cloudy. It wasn't raining, just cloudy. And everyone's like, the weather's so bad.
We do get like 6 days of rain a year out there on average.
Yeah.
So, you got to watch out for those seasons.
They'll pop up on you, real quick.
But, I grew up in a place called the San Fernando Valley. It was a little suburb outside of Los Angeles. We had mountains with horse trails and fire roads all around us within bike riding distance. And, like any kid in that area, there was a bunch of kids with BMX bikes. Now, BMX bikes back then, they weren't like BMX bikes today. Just like the motorcycles back then were nothing like the bikes today. But, you found whatever you could in a garbage can and added some parts together and made a bike and started jumping things and breaking things and fixing them. And it was a good deal. Then I transitioned. I became probably about 12 years old. We had some land right down the street that was basically at the end of our block. It used to be a big thoroughbred horse farm that shut down, which became the coolest flat track. The manure piles with shovels became motocross tracks.
Absolutely.
And everybody in the neighborhood, except old Cal Daddy, got permission from their parents to get a motorcycle. So I was probably 10, 11 years old, maybe 12, and all my friends had them, and none of them could fix a thing. Man, I could figure out how to fix anything, even at that age.
Okay.
So my deal was, look, you can't tell my parents, your bike breaks, I'll get it running, but I get to ride it for half a day with you. And that's how I got into dirt bikes.
Okay,
so
cool.
By the time our family had finally met another family that every year they used to go to Borrego Springs, Ocotillo Wells, Glamis, stuff like that, and go riding, I was like 14 years old. my dad let me get a motorcycle along with the rest of the family, and so we'd go out with this other family, go on vacation, go riding and stuff. And he sees me the first time on a bike. He says, obviously, this isn't your first time on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, I might have been on one a couple times. And we just totally got into it. My parents embraced it then. It wasn't this evil thing that, oh my God, you're going to kill yourself. Now it was like a cool thing. And my dad was actually riding too. So
Awesome. Okay.
we really enjoyed that stuff. But, as I got a little older, you get into sports and you find out what do they call them? Girls. That's right. They find out what those are all about.
Those are dangerous. Ruin
So the bike kind of got shoved to the side a little bit, and thank God I married my wife 34 years ago this year. She was my best friend's older sister, which worked out perfect.
Okay.
He just thought I really liked him a lot. I
Right.
really had the hots for a sister. That's what the reality was. But, and her father was a stock car driver, drove outlaw-type modified stock cars in Southern California and kind of all over the West Coast.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, his name's Orrin Prosser, and he was inducted in the West Coast NASCAR Hall of Fame last year.
Oh, wow,
So
that's
that was a
incredible.
really cool deal
that's
for
awesome.
us. That usually that kind of thing just doesn't happen, but he was that guy. And man, we went to a race, and the next thing I knew, it's like, I got to get involved in this. So the motorcycle got shoved to the side, got into racing. One thing led to another. I was driving race cars. Unfortunately, I wanted to run up front, and I tried to run up front, but I'd hit the wall a lot.
Right.
So it's like, you're either going to run well or you're going to knock the wall down doing it. And I knocked the wall down a lot trying to do it. So I think my wife actually put a trophy up there today that had a B main that I won,
Still counts. Still
But it
first
went
to
to
the
that,
flag.
but it became a passion, and it went from driving them to working on them, crew chiefing them, designing snouts. I really like math and all this dynamic stuff is going on with the chassis.
Just kind of
how
fell
to
in
make
love
it.
with the whole thing.
I just embraced it, and one thing led to another. I said, I want to chase the dream. I want to go move back east and see if we can't make it. And for some crazy reason, my wife's like, I'll tell you what, you got 5 years. If you don't crew chief a NASCAR Busch team, truck team, or Cup team in 5 years, I get the option to move back. So I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance.
Right? And at the time, I didn't realize that what I was asking her to do, there was maybe 50 truck teams, 50 Busch teams, and 50 Cup teams. And I'm actually being pretty liberal on
Right.
that. So I was going to go try to move across the whole United States, 3,000 miles away from everybody that I knew, and try to get one of 150 jobs in the world. That's what I was setting out to do. But,
Right.
when you're 28, 29 years old, you're like, I got this. This is a piece of cake.
Let's go for
I'm
it.
the man. Yeah. So sure enough, within 3 years, I was crew chief in a Busch and a truck team.
Okay.
In the fourth year, I crew chiefed the Petty Cummins Dodge with Jimmy Hensley driving. And that was a really big deal, to see Richard Petty stealing my kids' ball caps at the Christmas party and chasing my kids around.
Right.
I
I can only imagine. Yeah.
For a guy from the West Coast, I mean, that's the king. And they call him that for a reason, because he
Absolutely.
really is the king. He's the guy. He's probably one of the greatest bosses I've ever worked for in the racing industry, and I had a lot of help on the way. I have a dear friend of mine that his father, he's passed away a couple years ago, Bunk Nichols. He's a local guy out here in this area in High Point, North Carolina. He owns some car dealerships. He had everything to do with Clyde Vickers and CV Products and the success they had. Without the opportunity he gave me to work at his dealership and run his race team, which was his son's race team, Perry's, those guys just, I couldn't have done it without them. They've been supporters and mentors through my whole career out here, But went on to Petty's, did that, and moved around and worked for Mike Skinner and Hermie Sadler and, several other drivers. And how I came back to motorcycles was 10 or 12 years into being in the professional NASCAR business. The next thing I know, my best friend Tim Clancy, he had brought my kids to a GNCC race.
Okay.
And next thing I know, the boys are coming, Kyle and Kevin.
Right.
they're coming back from this race. Dad, we got to buy a motorcycle. You got to get a motorcycle. I mean, do that to an 11 and a 14-year-old or 12 and 14-year-old kid and just get them all wound up on it, you know, and these guys are nonstop. Well, I went down to our local Honda shop, Cycle Center in Asheboro. We all know them.
Oh, yeah.
They've
Love
taken
them.
care of all of us in this area.
Absolutely.
I went down there, and next thing I know, not only did I buy each of them a motorcycle, but, man, if they're going to ride, I'm still not that old. I'm going to ride
I
with
want
them.
to have some
So,
fun, too.
yeah, I quickly switched from being a crew chief and running the show to going over to the Caterpillar team, Bill Davis Racing, and I, you know, ran the fab shop and the aero program over there, and now I'm home on the weekends. And it was really kind of an epiphany. I'd bought the bikes, and I was still on the road, GM in a team and crew chief in one of their truck teams, and we were on the road like 20 weeks straight, and I realized when my oldest son at the time, he was 14, maybe just turned 15, Kyle, he said, man, you're finally off next weekend. Can we go ride those motorcycles you got? And, man, you talk about hitting you like a truck. You know, I moved here, my kids were 3 and 5 years old.
Okay.
They were just little itty-bitty dudes. And now I've got my son that's looking me straight in the eye. I'm not looking down at him. We're the same height. He's like, hey, you know, 20 weeks straight, can we finally go ride next weekend? And, I mean, I about fell apart, to be honest with you. And I realized that I got to get off the road.
Right.
You know, these guys are going to grow up, and they're going to be gone, and I'm going to be just bummed out.
Just like that, yeah.
So that was it. You know, we went all the way into it. I gave them a choice. They could ride motocross, arena cross, woods, whatever they wanted to do. They researched it, and they said, you know what? We got to ride a lot longer riding in this wood series, doing a hare scramble. And I'm thinking, what the heck is a hare scramble?
Right.
You know, I grew up in Southern California. First of all, there's not woods.
Yeah, there's not a lot
right?
anywhere.
And if there was woods, there's like an oak tree every 4 miles. So you don't even have to run hand guards or anything there. You know,
What's a bark buster?
Yeah, what's that? So we joined a series, the North Carolina Hare Scramble Association. We went out for the last 3 races of the year, and I thought, I know how to ride one of these things, man. I'm good to go. We showed up without handguards, by the way.
Whew.
And my sim friend that got my boys all jacked up on, Tim Clancy got my boys all jacked up on these motorcycles. I made him buy a bike too. I mean, the way I looked at it, it cost me $12,000 to get 3 bikes. Could you imagine that? 2003, $12,000 got you 3. Now it gets you 1.
Yeah.
But I said, you're getting a bike too.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're coming to this race. Shoot, he and I went out in that race. We're looking all up and down the line. Everybody's got these hand guards over here, and we're looking up, and they were like, why do they have those? Yeah, well, after all my fingers were bruised from the levers hitting trees and squishing my fingers and everything else. And then I realized it's not a moto race like when I was a kid. It's like a 2-hour race. So, you know, I went as hard as I could go. I made about 30 minutes, and I'm probably stretching. It's probably like 8 minutes, but we're going to say 30.
Felt like a lifetime.
Yeah, edit the 8-minute part out. And next thing I know, it's in like August. Now this is Southern California, boy. Here's the weather there: 87 degrees, 6% humidity. If it's a humid day, it's 9%. Welcome to North Carolina. It's 97 degrees and it's 99% humidity.
Absolutely.
In California, that's called rain. If it's 99%, I mean, how much more water could really be in the air? It's got to rain, but it doesn't out here. And I am basically naked in a pair of shorts. I've ripped the end out of my camel pack just because I didn't have enough energy to suck through the little one-way valve, you know, the little bite valve. Just ran and held it up against a tree, and I'm dying. I'm thinking, how do these cats do this stuff? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever done in my life. Only to find when I got dressed again, I went, man, I should spend $50 or whatever it was to race this thing. And here I'm laying down here, you know. So it took me about 30 minutes. I start riding. There's my friend. He's naked in his underwear, not 50 feet from where I was. Same thing, fingers bruised, you know. So we got into it, and I realized this is a really cool family atmosphere. And to be quite honest, what attracted me back to this business more than anything else was the people. You know, those people in the NASCAR business, if you do something that's cutting edge or outside the box and it's an advantage, you're not going to see someone's sticker on the bike. You're not going to hear about the person that helped them get that advantage. You're going to hear none of that. It is a secret.
Absolutely.
Well, I've been building shocks since 1987 for stock cars. And to me, you know, this stuff's like God, I just came from one of the most well-sponsored forms of motorsport in the United States that there was. And we had shock dynos, and, you know, I've been building shocks so long, it really didn't matter what the application was.
Right.
We knew how to get there.
It become like second
with
nature,
the technology. Yeah. So we were building our own stuff, and we started this little business really just to help keep the kids racing and get them new gear. And,
Right.
you know, they wanted all the trick stuff.
yeah.
You know, you had to have the cool graphics.
Got to look good before you go
That's
fast.
right. So we started this little business, you know, just out of the shop at the house. And, you know, next thing I know, it just keeps getting bigger because, unlike all the other power sports industries, these people just wanted your sticker to feel like they went faster.
Yep.
They told everybody. It's, you know, we have one of the first guys we helped out. He raced in a different class than my son, but they always seem to hook up together. And my son said, look, when we get hooked together, he could stay with me, but when I'm behind him, you got to help him. Just, Dad, can you fix his bike for him? So it's like, yeah, I'll fix it. You know, I talked to him afterwards, took his bike home with us, fixed it up. Guy never lost a race. He was a 5th place guy before. Now all of a sudden, that one guy, Bill Jenkinson, his name, just started telling everybody. Next thing you know, Full Travel Innovations was born. The kids named it. You know, we had a cool logo. It was like a shock turned sideways with our letters
absolutely.
in it. And it just started, and we had so much fun just with all those people. Enough that Doreen and I used to go to the track when we just stayed with one series. We were still small enough that we could show up at the track every weekend. But by that time, I couldn't go ride anymore because I was fixing other guys' stuff, helping along, regardless if they were a customer of ours or not. We were there for the people, like when my wife would take the kids and I was away, stock car racing. Like if she needed anything, that group of people in this industry are second to none.
Well, it's like we did the NCHSA, the North Carolina Hare Scramble, when I was on 85. So it was like my second year on 85s. And I just remember we were pulling into Twin Oaks, which was in Asheboro back when that was where I did my first woods race. And Dad was just like kind of freaking out on the amount of just pickup
Your dad
trucks.
didn't freak out.
Yeah, no, he was like, this is just like the good old days of racing. He was like, he's like, people are chilling out, drinking a beer, like everyone's having a good time. They're talking to each other. Yeah. It was like you showed up, you did your race. Afterwards, you were done. You realistically could get out of there probably by 2-3 o'clock.
That's right.
And then you go walk into the woods. People were helping riders on the track if you were stuck. Like it was a very, even more so than motocross, I feel like it was a very family atmosphere.
Yes.
Like everyone kind of helped everyone. And so even something like what you had said with your son, like I've never said ever anyone in my class I want any help with. If I race them on the track, I just want to beat them. I don't want to help them. And that's just kind of, that's interesting to hear how when you come up in that type of series and those type of people, because I mean, we know a lot of different people. I mean, like Hunter Williams, for example, guys that, you know, we know each other. And I mean, super friendly. He's taken me over to his house. We've hung out. We've rode together. And I mean, it's just a very close-knit group of people for sure. And I wish that was something that even, especially now, like on the top amateur scales, everyone kind of keeps to themselves. They don't want to talk to their buddies. You go up on the starting line, you're not really having a bunch of conversations with people. Whereas, like, I remember on the start line sitting there chatting next to the people next to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you this weekend. You know, how was last weekend?
On an off-road race like that, there's literally like, there's 2 guys on a line of 25 people that they're the ones looking down thinking, man, who do I got to beat? Who's
the guy?
They're like the really serious. The rest of us are hanging out. Hey, man, we going to the Western Sizzling after the break?
Absolutely.
I mean, the rest of us are planning our deal.
Your buddies, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, that's made my living in the motorsports industry. This is blowing me away. It's a self-advertising business. So if you get in the industry and you're helping people perform better, making their bikes better and handle better, and they could finish better, they tell all their competition that they compete, you got to go see these people. So it was like, this is a natural. This is it.
Right.
You know, this is what we need to do. So one thing leads to another. I'm still at Bill Davis. Everything's going well there, but the NASCAR industry is definitely changing from when I first entered it to now. And it's kind of like Caddyshack when Bill Murray told Chevy Chase, you know, I got a 3-year plan. You know, I'm just trying to, you know, work same deal. I realize that, Cal Daddy need a 3-year plan because this industry is going to change. You know, everything does.
Everything does. Absolutely.
And now it has absolutely become just a place that I'm making a living. I'm losing my passion, and you know, when it's like that, it's time to move.
Time to go. Absolutely.
So out of the blue, I have a friend of mine, Rick Ware, call me up and say, look, we want to cross promote NASCAR and Supercross.
Okay.
And I dealt with Rick before, and he was a good friend of mine. One of the ones that was responsible for me making it possible to move out here and just see what North Carolina was like.
Okay, cool.
And I don't know. It's nice being with a really big team, and you don't have to worry where your paycheck's coming from. These guys aren't struggling. Caterpillar's a pretty good sponsor.
Right.
They take care of you. And my friend's team just wasn't there yet. They didn't have the great sponsor. And he said, look, I'll hook you up with the guy that wants to do this deal. His name's Bill Coleman, and he was a big real estate or a mortgage banker. And at the time, we're talking about, this is 2006.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I'm going to have him call you. I'm thinking, yeah, okay. So I get this phone call. He calls, and he's in San Francisco. And he says, hey, Bill Coleman, I know you talked to Rick Ware. Look, we've read about your suspension company. You're really starting to move in the motorcycle deal. Rick spoke highly about you, said it doesn't matter what it is. That guy could build us really good race bikes. And he wanted me to run that team and put the thing together and all that deal. And he said, I really want you to come work for me. And I said, look, I'm pretty comfortable here. I'm number 5 guy over here. I sit next to Bill at every meeting.
Right.
He says, well, hey, I want to come over there and take a tour of one of these NASCAR shops. I want to see what this thing's all about. If we're going to do it, we want to run Daytona, Talladega, and then run all of the Supercross. He goes, can I come over there and visit? I go, I thought you were in, San Francisco. He goes, I am. I'll be there about 2:30. Well, I think they had just bought a jet or something.
Right.
And sure enough, he and his wife and daughter come rolling in. I got to give him a tour of Bill Davis Racing at 2:30. And I was just talking to him at 7 in the morning. So I thought, this guy's serious. And he's got a contract in his hand. Says, you need to come work for me. What he didn't know is Bill and I were talking about maybe putting a Supercross team together, because Bill Davis was also passionate about motorcycle racing. He had actually had told me that he rode in the Super Bowl of motocross in the 70s. And I'm looking at Bill. Bill's like 6'5", and at this time, Bill, don't be mad at me, but he's probably weighing in at 350. He's a big, giant man. And I just took one look at him, went, yeah, sure you were.
I bet you did, yeah.
And I can't say what he told me.
All right.
But he said I was a lot lighter back then.
Yeah.
And that's what yeah. But we were talking to Caterpillar about maybe starting a Supercross team
branching out into
of Bill Davis Racing.
Okay.
And here this guy walks in, and it's like, wow. So, man, I took the thing. I went and talked to Bill right away and said, what do you think? He says, look, if you want to do it, I get it, because we've already talked about all this, and I think it's a really cool thing. If you go, you're good. If it doesn't work out, just get your butt back over here.
Wow.
That's kind of the open-ended deal. It's
absolutely.
like, sign on the dot and let's go, man.
Whatever
let's build.
happens.
So
That's
sure
awesome.
enough, you take a bunch of NASCAR guys and go build some Supercross bikes. Let me tell you, they made plenty of power. They looked really good, and yeah, they were cheated up. They were light. We had a lot of titanium because we knew the factory guys are going to be making some trick stuff.
Right.
But they didn't know what a bunch of rednecks do to these cars to find ways to shave weight and everything.
We've got our own
So
methods.
we thought we had everything so figured out. And we had fast bikes. Our second race, Phoenix, Jeff DeMent was one of our riders. He hole shotted that thing by a mile. So they were fast. The only problem was we decided on our motors. We took some of our NASCAR technology that is now common day stuff. We rim finished, CT14 coated, all the transmissions, cranks, everything else. But we also took, there were YZ450s, 07 models. We took like 1.5 pounds of rotating mass out of just the crank. Forget about everything else we lightened up, just out of the crank. So these things were literally, they rode like 2 strokes. Like you touched the throttle and it's, pa! That was it. Problem was, we didn't understand that in NASCAR you have a seat with a harness that straps you to the car.
Right.
So no matter how gnarly it is, the driver doesn't have to hang on.
Right.
Right? I mean, he's just kind of sitting there.
The
right?
harder it
It's
hits, the more it
physical.
puts you in
And
a chair.
turns everything. However, these bikes made it to where, you know, they could, if it's a 20-lap moto, 10 laps, they're spent. This thing wants to, what Jacob Hayes used to call it, you want to be Larry Loopout going across the whoops. You know, I mean, there was just nothing you could do to control the motorcycle. So we had some steep learning curves and learning what worked, what didn't work.
Did you guys kind of expect that going in, or did you legitimately think like, oh, we've got it figured out? Did you feel you almost had an advantage coming from the NASCAR side?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. It's like, well, those factory guys are good, but
You're from a whole different world, right?
We've done some different things too. And by the second year, we had pretty good stuff. We had switched over to Hondas.
Right.
Thank God, by the end of the first year, our riders got injured. Jeff DeMent, he was kind of at the end of his career. He's older, and we gave some younger guys a chance, which with Tyler Bright, I know you and I had talked about TB and great kid. That was his first year, got his pro license, put him in 250 class. It was great to take those young guys and move up, but it was a learning experience of what the professional industry was. I was expecting it to be kind of like the North Carolina series or some arena cross stuff. We get into the pros, it's a different deal, totally different deal. I mean, we bought all our bikes. We had some help from some other manufacturers, but we chose Yamahas. We bought it. Yamaha wouldn't give us a chain link. Just wasn't going to happen. And our frames are all polished. There was a reason they were polished. Everybody thought we were just being tricked. I remember Jeremy Albright was still working for James Stewart at the time for Kawasaki, and he came over and he said something to the effect that, "Hey, what's up with the polished bikes? I just want to thank you right now. James wants his bike polished, and that's going to suck so bad to make that look like that every single. Hey, good job, NASCAR.
Thanks a lot.
He was he was one of the ones that stuck. It's like, shit, this is Jeremy Albright,
Right, yeah.
Cool. He thinks our bikes are cool, and then it's like, hey, thanks for ruining the industry. Good job on the polishing. Well, we did it because I'd cut so much weight out of those things that I had to hide it somehow, So, polishing was just the natural deal. Maybe they won't notice if it sparkles in their eye.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, shoot, where was I? I lost my train of thought. This is the 55 thing. Your dad does this all the time.
He does. It's bad. So you're a Tyler Bright. You just
Oh, yeah.
Tyler, you put him in
So we got
255.
Tyler Bright, yeah. And Tyler Bright, he struggles to qualify a little bit, but, man, once he qualified one, I think it was Detroit. Now Tyler's going, and he basically hole shotted Detroit in this heat race, and that's when Alessi was still there. I think Alessi ended up like inching him out at the white chalk line by like a pinky finger or something like that. But there's a picture up here somewhere of TB,
I see his number plate hanging over there somewhere.
Yeah, his number plate's around there. I've got a whole shot picture of him somewhere. But it was a really big deal for us to see
absolutely.
this.
Yeah, I can
to
imagine.
see kid Tyler Bright is my Rudy, man. That kid, Sam, his dad is his past, awesome man. Brought I think Tyler to some race somewhere, and the next thing you know, Tyler says, "I'm going to be a professional motorcycle racer," and by God, he was. And to be a part of that, that was really, really cool, man. It was just really neat to see. Tyler Bright's biggest attribute was that kid had more heart than probably anybody I'd ever worked with in my entire life. And, he would come to the shop. We wouldn't let him work on the bikes. It's like, you're not just Tyler, just do. He'd go clean the shop. The problem with cleaning the shop is it was clean. It was so clean you wouldn't believe it. He threw half your stuff away because, what? Oh, those are titanium bolts? I saw grease on them. I thought they're, so you had to watch Tyler on that stuff. But he had so much heart, so much ambition. He, whether he's doing it right or wrong, he just worked. That's something that our youth could probably learn from now.
Absolutely.
He might not have been athletically as, some guys throw their leg over a bike for the first time, and we've all watched them, and you just go, I've been riding for 5 years.
It's not
That's
fair.
the first time he
It's
cracked
not
the
fair.
throttle.
Yeah.
And then there's some guys, man, they got to work for everything you get. And Tyler, he worked for it, man. And to see him become a pro, that was a really cool deal.
Did that help motivate you guys as a team? Just, you hear so many people where it's like the riders not pulling their weight or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like somebody like that who's really doing everything they can just to try to find an inch or a second lap, that's got to motivate just the whole team.
Just totally motivate us. And the other thing that we had on that, when our 450 riders got hurt, we hired Brock Sellards, which is a dear friend of mine today. I know some of the younger viewers might not know Brock, but
Guys got to brush up on your history.
Brock is, gosh, he's probably 35 now, I'm guessing. He's got 2 kids, beautiful wife. He works for Western Power Sports. Brock is just one of the most wonderful racers I've ever dealt with. And I've dealt with a bunch of racers, but, we would spend hours testing and working together and doing stuff. And he would be the guy that would teach anybody. He taught my kids stuff. my son had worked on arena cross track, road, wanted to race arena cross, but he still had that woods look, and woods riders start jumping.
I do.
It's just kind of different. And I said, Brock, I don't know what to tell him. And Brock and I were spending the week together doing some suspension testing, and he goes, well, let's go down. We went down to East. He goes, where's an outlaw track? I don't want anybody to know me. I just want to go have fun again like when I was a kid. I said, man, we can go to East Bend.
Absolutely.
So we went down to East Bend. He goes, I'll watch Kevin ride there. Go ride with him, and I'll fix him up. Sure enough, it took Brock like 30 seconds of riding with Kevin. Told him to sit on his bike after the moto. Basically, Kevin was holding on to the motorcycle with his arms, and apparently I thought that's what you were supposed to hold on to the bike with. But after talking to Brock, he said, hey, your arms are to turn the handlebars and control the levers and twist the throttle. They're not to hang on to the bike with. And Kevin says, well, I grip with my knees. He goes, yeah, that's all great that you grip with the knees, but just move your body. If you're on the gas, obviously you're going to be more in the attack position until your arms aren't getting pulled. Next thing you know, we go to Nashville. Kevin won practice, the heat race, he won everything. It looked like he was a veteran arena cross race. This is my youngest son.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's from the guy, a pro like that.
30 seconds, just
30
glances
seconds,
at it,
like,
yeah.
oh, I got Kevin. He'll win it all now. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So I met Brock. We became friends with Brock, and that's when everything started rolling pretty good. Of course, then it happened, and that was 2008. You're too young to remember it, but all of you older guys out there remember 2008. That's basically by September of 2008, the world we know and live in was falling off a cliff. And my contract was for 2 years. I had the plan that I'm going to work this deal in Supercross for 2 years. At the end of that 2008 outdoor national season, we were starting FTI as our full-time only income business. The business, we've been around since 2003. That's when we got our first LLC for the company. And but we always had another source of income.
Right,
I always had a big NASCAR job or the Supercross job or something else going on. But it's like, what? It's time to give back to the community. Money's good. Everything was wonderful before 2008. And we said we're going to get together and we'll have this big shop with a test facility and we're going to give it a go. Of course, by February of 2008, my checks started to not show up, and at the time I'm not a financial genius by any means. I'm an idiot as far as financial stuff goes, and I don't even hardly watch the news. I didn't know what was really happening. I don't think anybody really knew what was happening. And by the end of 2008, we had helped keep the team keep the team going, and the whole ball of wax. And next thing I know, I'm $180,000 in the hole. And my friend Bill Coleman, that was the sponsor of the whole thing.
Right.
He has now lost everything. And a lot of people always ask me, did that guy make it, man? That guy still is my friend today. He's the most wonderful man. He got caught on hard times just like everybody else did, but he was on the lending institution side of it, and he was good enough when everything was unraveling that he made sure he kept us on the insurance, and that was just a big thing. Not real common knowledge, but my wife had got cancer during part of that thing.
Wow.
It was non-invasive. She's a cancer survivor now, but it was a big deal back in those days to get insurance.
Yeah.
If you ever had anything with this C in it, you're done, right? And people don't realize until it happens to them. We've never spent a day in the hospital and have our kids,
Right.
and all of a sudden you get that, and man, you have nothing. So he was a good enough guy. We still talk all the time, and he's one of those guys. If he becomes the multimillionaire again, he'll probably pay me back with interest. He's just one of those guys.
Right.
I did not let it's just a thing that happened. But on the FTI side, my wife looked at us. Now we're in the shop. We got the track, got all the stuff, but nobody has a dime.
Yeah.
So she says, what are we going to do? I said, you know what? It just can't get any worse than it is right now. It can't. So anything we make from today forward, September 2008 forward, anything that's in the positive direction will be good. It's going to be hard. It's going to suck. It's going to be tough. Who knows what's going to happen, but here we are. It's 2019, so we're 11 years removed from that time. Would I say that we're making millions? Everybody thinks in this business, man, they must be killing. They got a 4,000 square foot shop and all this technology with dynos and all that stuff. Look, this is a hard industry to make a living in. I'm sure you'll probably have a show about it. You need to interview your dad. This showroom we're sitting in here is now a third of the size of what it used to be. We used to move a lot of product here, and now we're in kind of, I call it the Power Sports 4.0 stage.
Yep.
And so it's a very hard business to keep it going.
I just kind of remember, I mean, you're right. I was a little too young to understand what was going on, but I just remember Dad saying, like, I'm in a discretionary income sport. Yes. He was like, what's going to go first, like the car or the bike? And that's when it kind of made sense. I was like, okay, this isn't just like, at the end of the day, because like to me, I got on a bike at like 3 years old. Like I've always had a bike. I've never been in a situation where it's like the bike has to go. And Dad's like, that's going to be the situation for a lot of people now. Like things have just significantly changed.
It's really crazy how humans are. I knew so many people that lost their jobs or businesses and everything else, and that bike was sitting over there in the corner. And thank God they just went, you know what? I don't have a job to drive to anymore that I just had to drive 40 minutes every day and use gas. That motocross track, I go over to Twin Oaks. 5 minutes down the road. My bike only burns 2 gallons of gas. I mean, they would go mow somebody's lawn, and thank God they were still riding. Of course, we're pretty compassionate people, so I would see these stories, and then even though we're down our leg, it's like, what's going to be being a little more broke?
Yeah.
Who cares, man? Let's get that guy fixed so at least, not so much fork oil's leaking on the caliper that his front brakes don't work.
Right.
We started helping people out, and I just believe that if you're like that, it all comes around. Like I say, I'll probably never get rich in this business, but we've survived in an industry that is it's your toy that you're playing with, and the toys aren't getting cheaper.
By any means.
One of my friends just bought a new Husky Factory Edition 19.5 450, and that's $12,000 motorcycle.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, to be relative, my first bike was a year-old CR 125. I gave $600 for it. I mean, I mowed lawns, and I made half of it. My dad gave me the other half. But you could save $600 in 1978.
Right.
You could do that. I don't know a kid that could go mow lawns for a summer and put down $6,000 on the $12,000. Dad's just got an extra $6,000 to throw. It just doesn't work like that anymore.
Exactly.
Money's not that loose. So the industry is getting more expensive. Are the bikes tricked? Yes, I rode that new 450. Trickiest 450 I've ever rode in my absolute life. It is so cool to ride on a 220-pound 450 bike that's perfect, fits you perfect, does everything perfect.
I still freak out every time somebody just presses a button and their bike cranks up.
Yeah, that's the most awesome thing for us old guys in the world.
Well, I've got to start that back in my day.
If you're under 30 years old, I think they ought to make kickstarts illegal. You guys have to kick them. That plus 30, we should have the button. It could be our equalizer. We kick you over if you stall your bike. We got a little chance to get ahead of you.
Well, okay, so talk about the NCHSA. I don't think I ever started a race closer than 40 seconds behind last place. Dead engine start. The last race, we didn't even worry about it. Like, I wasn't even really that stressed out about trying, because I knew I was going to be last. Yeah. And so we're coming from the back every time. I get one of those trick little buttons now, I might have a chance.
Yeah.
We might have to.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. Dad, you heard that. I know a bike that's got a button on it now, so we might have to trick something out. Get those hand guards set up.
Yeah, that's right. Get you some new thugs. We got a new hand guard out. Basically, we've been really fortunate to be blessed with a lot of people in this industry. As you know, you guys have seen them, and some of you out there probably have. We've probably built 4, 5, 6 bikes a year for the past 10 years for the magazine.
Yeah, go ahead and name off some of these magazines, because I mean, for those of you that don't know, like, even if you've never been to FTI or like seen anything online, you guys have been in several different magazines, and those bikes are so nice.
Yeah. Well, how that all came about, I have a old friend of mine, Scott Hyland, that used to work over there at CV4, and he's always been a moto guy, and he's so passionate, gets all jacked up and excited. We call him hair on fire half the time, because he just loves this stuff. If you talk titanium powder coated carbon fiber, Scott, I mean,
he's all about it.
He's vibrating across the floor. Yeah. So anyway, he says, hey, we want to build a bike for Dirt Bike Magazine, and they had hired Steve Johnson over there, which is, I know there's a lot of Steve Johnsons. This is Steve Johnson, that he's one of my best friends. He was with Weisco for 26 years. That's kind of a long time.
That's a long time.
He was basically family over there. He grew up at the Coombs. You know, he was a former pro motocross guy. Career ended early, destroyed his shoulders, and, you know, went basically over to Weisco. Couldn't race, and those guys had always helped him. And he's from Ohio, so he started working. Well, Steve is, I was telling you before the show, when you roll with Steve to any motocross event, Supercross event, it's like you're hanging out with Elvis or whoever would be comparable to Elvis now in your generation.
I don't know, Justin Bieber or something.
Yeah, there you go, Justin Bieber. There you go.
The man.
Dear friend of mine, and these magazine bikes, you know, they came to me and they said, look, you build really trick stuff. How about building a bike for a dirt bike magazine? We want to build a CRF 450. And I said, yeah, what's involved? You know, I mean, we're dead broke. It's 2009, you know, but can't hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Just some time. 168 hours in a week, and if you work 40 and sleep 40, that still gives you a bunch of hours left. I'll build one at night if I have to. Next thing I know, it's like Christmas, man. There is parts coming for this bike, all sorts of stuff, and we build this bike, and the guys fly out from Dirt Bike Magazine. Adam Booth, still dear friends with him today. They fly out to ride this bike, and it was a really cool deal. You know, Adam's checking it out because this is the new company. Now, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but there's some really cool articles on new trick, you know, bikes that people rebuild. But sometimes those articles never even make it because somebody builds a bike and something breaks and one of the editors gets hurt. So they're expecting, all right, this new guy from North Carolina is building this bike. They don't care what your credentials in. If that thing is not spot on, perfect, I mean, then you're never going to do a magazine bike again. It's just, they'll never fly back out here. And that's the only way we kind of roll over here anyway. I'm really anal retentive. Don't know if I can say that on the show, but, you know, I want everything to be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I don't want laziness to be the excuse why it's not perfect. So we build this thing, and Adam rides it, and he's, like, stoked with it. You know, he's like, this is really good. Hey, if you want to do any other bikes, you know, anytime, I'll fly out here. Next thing is, how about a woods bike? We'll go to Ohio and shoot that. Steve Johnson's the one that kept driving this deal. He'd been friends with Adam and the editor of Dirt Bike, all those guys. Everybody in the industry knows Steve. So next thing you know, we're doing bikes for Dirt Bike Magazine, Motocross Action. Did one for Andy Boyer for
that was like that retro
Transworld.
Transworld,
right?
Okay.
Shoot, I'm gonna mess it up. It's Racer X. Yes. Yeah. Hey, either way, Transworld, Racer X, we've done a lot of magazine bikes every year and made relationships with these guys. And knowing after Adam let us know the first time, just keep making them like this. We'll come wherever you build them. So we're blessed to have worked with companies like, you know, Ken and Glenn Lavens over at Cycra.
Absolutely.
CV4 is now shut down. They're reorganizing. It's Exeldyne Technologies now, but we have done a ton of work with those guys. Primarily with Scott and Steve Johnson, with Weisco and Prox and Works Connection, and I could list Yoshimura, FMF, all these guys, just wonderful people making wonderful products. And, you know, we've been blessed to be able to work with those guys and then have input in the industry. If we see something that isn't quite up to par and that there's a problem, now I know the guys. I call them and say, hey, you know, you didn't tap these bolts in these things. Better keep an eye on it. And so I become an asset for them as well to say you got a problem before something gets out there. Let's test it and beat the crud out of it and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. And if they need any engineering help, they can lean on us, and it's a good deal. Recluse clutches. You know, I've been dealing with Recluse. Our companies basically started at the same time. Met Patrick Kother over there, not because the clutch was the perfect clutch, because there was a problem on a customer's bike, and I was the guy that wasn't real happy about it.
Right.
And long-lasting relationship. Those guys are all just such wonderful people building killer products, and they're trying to help guys like us make a living, while at the same time not breaking the bank for the racer, giving them the best product they have. They might pay a lot more for the premium stuff, but there's a reason for it.
Absolutely,
you know,
yeah. The product's is worth the prices they can make it.
You
yeah,
betcha.
I mean, it's Well, and I mean, I think that's something that you have said kind of throughout your whole story. You know, what you said about you never want laziness to be the excuse. Like you, whatever it is you've been in, because I mean, I've known you, like you said, it's been a long time, and I mean, everything you do to the max. I mean, I know like when we were getting ready for Loretta's, is there anything wrong with the suspension? Is there anything we can do to help? I know you've tested with some of your other guys that go out there, and I mean, it's whether it's a local guy like me or somebody like Jacob Hayes or somebody like a race team or something like that. You give everyone the exact same amount of attention. You take care of everybody the same way, and I mean, locally racing around here, you guys are obviously very popular, and I mean, whether it's Tyler Williams or Hunter Williams or any of these guys that I grew up racing, everyone loves it. I mean, it's just like, and even if there is a problem with their suspension, they just call Cal, and Cal takes care of it. I mean, T. Gardner, who's working in the shop now, I've grown up racing against him, and I mean, he's always, this feels a little weird. I'm probably going to call Cal on the way home and see what he thinks about it, because I mean, people I think have begun to look at you as more almost like a father figure. If you don't know somebody like me who's got a dad in the industry, I let him handle all that. Yeah. But somebody who doesn't, Dylan Cohen, I told him I'd give him a shout out. Yeah. He was just in here a minute ago, and I mean,
we've got his bib up right next to yours up here. I don't know if the camera can see that, but I had to make sure everybody could see that.
There we go. Oh yeah. But and so his dad's not a racer, and so it seemed like he came to you for a lot of stuff, and you didn't turn anybody away. You make sure to try to help everyone, and I think that people like you that like you said foster that community. You do it not because it's going to make you money, but because it's right. You help these people. You understand that passion behind racing, and I think that's something that the sport desperately needs more of right now.
Yeah, our whole premise behind this deal, my wife Doreen is, she's a quiet one. I'm the one that does all the talking all the time, and it works out perfect. Then she doesn't have to. She's a little more bashful than I am. So we basically. We like to see people with the smile on their face. I love to see, I'll tell you a real quick story. We're probably running out of time, but when I got involved in the NASCAR business, I worked for some of the biggest teams in the industry and some of the smallest teams in the industry, just trying to find a way to find, like Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin. I always call it Charlie Brown, the great sponsor, right? They're guys that are, man, they're working just as hard, most of the time harder than the guys that have all the resources. And I learned a long time ago from a really smart engineer that worked for us at Bill Davis. He said there might be teams that have more resources than us, but if we could utilize 95% of the resources that we have, we could compete with them, because those guys with all those resources, they're only utilizing 50%. Yeah. I thought that was really just brilliant. Well, there's a whole bunch of people, they might not have as much money, but if I have a little bit more knowledge and I could become that resource for them to help them. I thought I was going to move here from Southern California and I was going to have a Winston Cup championship ring on every finger. I mean, that's just where I was. I would not quit until I knew everything I needed to know to make everything happen. Of course, you can't do every single thing yourself. There's luck involved. There's spirituality involved. Should have prayed a lot more back then, right. But what I did realize later on was when I'd have one of my crew members call me up from Victory Circle, and I'm looking at him in Victory Circle. And he says, Cal, thanks. This is my dream. This is a dream come true. I'm on a winning NASCAR team in Victory Circle at the highest series at Bristol. And if it wasn't for you, I won. And I realized in that moment, and I told this story at a big Parts Unlimited party up in the trade show in Indiana that your dad and I would have to go to. Told this story to a group of guys at an after party, a Parts Unlimited after party. There's probably 8 or 10 guys around there going, hey, what about the NASCAR? They think the NASCAR deal's so cool. Yeah. And me, I'm digging the Supercross deal. I think it's so cool. And, I was telling him about this friend of mine. His name's Jason Binger. He was a guy that just needed a job. I was the last shop he showed up at. One thing leads to there, and it's like, I'll hire you. Don't ditch me. At the end of the year, you can leave. Don't ditch me. Shoot, he ended up living on our couch for a year, became dear friends, met his wife at one of the racetracks. I was best man at his wedding in Wisconsin. Wow. He's now got 2 beautiful girls, and he's done everything you could possibly do in the business, going over the wall and everything else. And so I told the story about this phone call. They said, did you win any champions there? Yeah, not at the biggest level. I didn't win any. I said, but let me tell you a story about Jason. So I tell him that what's going on is the Daytona race. During the after party, I think it was a firecracker race or whatever. It must have been 4th of July or something. Or it was a 500. But he was working for Jack Roush. Matt Kenseth was the driver that won Roush his first race at Daytona.
Okay.
And I'm probably messing the story up, but it's basically that. And all these guys are going, I said, hey guys, by the way, that guy I was just telling you, Binger, that's him, the third guy on the right from the driver right there. They just won the deal. And so they just heard the whole story about NASCAR and, you know, my excuse for never winning the championship,
right.
But this was even bigger. And as I tell them that's him, he takes his phone out of his pocket, hits the button. There I got my phone. It's like, there you go.
Hey guys, check the name.
Binger on it. And man, Bud, you're on speakerphone. We watch it. Yeah, it was a Daytona. We just won the Daytona, man. You are the man. I didn't do anything if it wasn't for you. And I realized right then, feels a lot more to help somebody else get where they want to be than any champ. You can say, oh, well, I want to be here and I want to be a champion, blah, blah, blah. Man, you help somebody else get where they want to be. You know, it's biblical. It is the coolest, greatest feeling, and that's what we try to pass on to this. It is so much fun seeing a dad and his son out there getting it on a motocross track. You know, we tell lessons here. I've probably driven customers away telling about me giving my kid a hard time at 4 years old at a BMX race. I was that dad. I was the little league dad. I was the bad guy. And my wife ratted me out to one of my good friends, Will Harper, and I could beat the crud out of Will Harper at the time, but I was working on his race car. He stuck his foot on the creeper so I couldn't get out there and dot his eye. And he let me know after she ratted me out, don't be that guy. You're a jackass. Sometimes your kids don't feel like pedaling. He's 4 years old and he was up the night before because you were racing. He was up with his cousin till 3. Don't be that guy. I've told so many dads that stories that I know they're the ones at the racetrack that are giving that kid a hard time. Yeah. You know, and I break it down and I say, look, you know, it's all about Caddyshack. They show that little caddy trophy. The trophy's this big. You know, it's next to a tab can. When they pan out, you realize the can is 3 times the size. I said, do you think your kid wants a Caddyshack trophy, the little 1.5 one? Or do you think he wants that big 3-foot tall one? Go, well, he wants a 3-foot tall. Which one do you want? You want the 3-foot tall one?
Absolutely. The bigger the better.
So here's what we do know. You guys want the same thing. Now, how are you going to help him get it? Do you think that your kid doesn't already know when you tell him elbow down and give it full throttle that he already knows that makes the motor go faster?
Right.
There's a reason he's not twisting the thing down. Your job as a dad is to be his eyes, ears, his basic video camera. And if you see him struggling in the area, you look at the kid that's not and go, wow, that kid's got his butt on the corner of the seat. He's waiting the outside peg. My kid's in the center of the seat and falling over. When your kid comes and asks you, I keep falling over in that corner. Hey, see number 14 over there? Yeah. He's got his butt on the corner of the seat. His bike's over, but he's kind of straighter up. Man, he's everything on that outside peg. That's what he's doing. Really, Dad? Because he asked you. Boy, you do that stuff. Let me tell you, after that race, regardless of where he finishes, your kid is so happy. He's high-fiving you after the race because he finally didn't fall over in a corner. And you guys are, again, they don't have them anymore out here, but they used to, by gosh, when my kids were, you're at the Western Sizzling, you're partying down, you know, all you can eat, you know, banana pudding or whatever the heck it was, but you had the greatest experience with your kid. And that's what I want to see these parents have. And that to me is like winning the Daytona 500. It's like winning every championship you ever wanted. If I could see that with my customers, hey, and some of them, when you tell them, oh, somebody must have told you, I yell at my kid every time. That's just the way I'm going to do it. Hey, well, you know, see how it works for you, and I'll talk to you later. I might not ever see him again. I really don't care.
Yeah.
Because a bunch of them go, hey, I do that. How much fun is it on the way home? My daughter hates me. My wife hates me. My son that I chewed out hates me. I pretty much hate me when I do. You guys go to the Western Sizzling or Golden Corral or Hardee's or whatever it is, go celebrate. Nope. No, we're going straight home, and they usually don't talk to me for 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what, you try it my way and see how it works, and you will enjoy yourself. And, man, you do that, again, that's my Daytona 500. That's my Winston Cup Championship. That's my everything. So that's why we're here. We want to help. If we can make a living doing it, awesome. I do want to give a shout-out. That's Steve Johnson I was telling you.
Yeah,
He's kind of our director of marketing now. He's helping us out with this new handguard system and everything else. And Steve Johnson has just been a great friend, great mentor in the industry. We've had some rumors go around the racetrack. Some customers have told us at some of the Loretta Lynn's qualifiers that somebody's spreading stuff that we're going out of business and we're not doing. And I put a little article out on Facebook. I usually don't write anything on Facebook, primarily because I'm an old guy, hardly know how to operate it. But as a matter of fact, we do have exciting things going on, and people might have heard some rumors. As a matter of fact, we're going to have an FTI East, which is what we currently are now.
Right.
And we are talking about having an FTI West. You know, all my family is 3,000 miles away. We need to help out with that. Isaiah Murph, you know, Isaiah, you've ridden with Isaiah. Isaiah's been with me. He's now 32 years old, I think. He's been with me since he's 18. I've taught him everything in the industry. He's like family to us. Isaiah and Kevin, my son, might be here running this end of it. And I'm going to start a new adventure sometime in the future. It could be 5 months. It could be 5 years. But the rumor that's going on that we've gone out of business. They've been saying that, well, since CV4, which is on High Tech Boulevard with us, went out of business. Those guys were owned by, they've never owned us. My wife's always owned us. So it's a really, and you know, I couldn't say anything.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'll just tell them exactly what's going on.
Absolutely.
This business is changing. You know, it's a big shop, it's big overhead, and it's a evolving industry. Things aren't the same. We probably will scale the shop down and be in a smaller area, and that will enable me to have enough money to keep the overhead down so I could have a second location. And I'm really, really excited about it, to be able to go back to both coasts, enjoy this industry. Maybe you come out there.
Absolutely.
We might have some bikes as part of our program out there. Start an adventure bike deal in Gardnerville, Nevada area, which you could ride over to Lake Tahoe through the Sierras off-road.
Wow.
You could ride to Reno. You could ride to Vegas. So we're talking about kind of expanding it. Instead of making stuff smaller, it's probably going to get
bigger,
quite a bit bigger. I dream really big. So,
There's a way to do it.
Doesn't cost me much to dream. And when it starts costing, Doreen makes sure that she says, you can't afford that, but we'll find a way, right?
We'll go for it.
Yeah. I always talk her into it. I talked her into moving 3,000 miles away. You know, I got it covered.
Well, and I mean, I think looking at the way you guys handle things and the way you guys treat your customers, whether it's on the East Coast, the West Coast, wherever, how does somebody not like that? I mean, like when you get that personal experience, you walk away knowing that you don't feel like you just got shafted. You know the guy took care of you. You know he wants what's best for you. I mean, just that story right there. I mean, this is such a family sport. I mean, yes, it's dangerous. Yes, there are risks that come to it. And I think people get kind of caught up on that, and they're like, well, I'm doing all this risk, but it's really not. I mean, I'm not anybody in the sport of motocross racing, but this is all I think about. This has been, you know, my childhood has been absolutely amazing because of, just like you said, those trips to the track, those trips back from the track, those nights at East Bend. That's where I rode my first race at. And that's I mean, it's just, when you get bit by that bug, there's something about it. And the whole atmosphere of racing, guys that understand what it takes to do what we do, guys that understand what it takes to get to whatever level it is you're on, there's a respect that all riders have for each other and the families and everything like that. And so, I didn't know any of that was going on. And so that's really exciting news. And, keep me updated on that, because I'd love to come over to the other side.
I'm sure you and your dad will be coming down for it. It'll have to
what
be
did I tell you? I've gone to
your
California.
Mom could come. Doreen will take her over to Tahoe and stuff in Heavenly Valley, but we're going to be sitting on dirt bikes.
Oh, yeah. Guarantee it. Well, see, I got to go to California earlier this year. I got to go to San Diego, and I wound up at Paula Raceway.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, man, I wonder if you could rent a bike somewhere around here. I was itching.
Oh, come on. You're world famous now.
Oh, yeah. We're getting there.
Podcast.
We're getting there. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have to take this thing to the West Coast, UpShift MX West Edition.
There you go. I know some people that know some people over there.
Well, you have your people call my people.
I'll have your people.
And we'll have everything worked out.
We'll have you covered.
Well, Cal, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You let us take over your shop here at the end of the day. Doreen, she's hanging out over there. She's not saying much. But they let us come take over their shop today. I can't thank you enough for telling your story and for being one of the good people out here. You know,
Well, man, we really appreciate that. I mean, we appreciate you coming out here to our shop and shooting this deal. I'm just so proud of you. You know, that story you did on Jacob Hayes and Paul. Paul and I are dear friends, and you know, when I see a guy like Jacob, that deal, we rarely had our name on Jacob's bike because he had a Team Green deal. But whenever Jacob needed help since he was a little kid, we were the ones there for him. And, you know, we did a magazine bike for him because nobody was giving anybody anything at the time because of the big crash in 2008. All we did it for had nothing to do with us. That was a deal to get somebody to recognize that this is a good kid that has just an abundance of talent.
He's so fast.
That for whatever reason, this is where he was at, and he was on his own, and he needed a ride. And to watch what happened, It's how proud of you, Jake.
Oh,
just to know that's
so
your
cool.
buddy.
I mean, just to know him the little bit that I do, and now, you know, you get to see him on TV, and he's not like just a guy on TV. Like, he's up there racing against the best in the world. Like, yeah, you get a sense of pride just knowing.
I never try to bug Jacob, but for all of you guys that watch Jacob out there, here's who this kid is. Like, I'm nobody, right? I've helped him out a little bit. I've known him for a long time. But if I text Jacob right now, wherever he's at, if he's not riding on his motorcycle, in 5 minutes, what do you need, Cal? Are you okay?
Yeah.
I mean, instantly, he does not forget where he's come from at all. He is such a good young man. Super proud of him. And man, that's what it's all about. You get to see somebody accomplish their dream and look for good things in the outdoors. I have a feeling Jacob's going to
I do too.
surprise a whole bunch of people out there. It's going to be.
I got to see him when he was
really
in Muddy Creek, when he was on the Cowie, like when he just like decided he was going to show up and do an outdoor national. And he's like finishing 11th.
Yeah.
And just, he's so fast. Yeah. I'm excited to see what it comes from. And anybody that hasn't watched, Jacob's is episode 4. And then Paul Sajak at Armored Graphics is episode 5. You know, we're going to try to keep bringing awesome stories like this for local. And then, you know, we're trying to spread out. We're trying to get all different stories. We're still working on getting iTunes and everything set up. We're on Spotify and SoundCloud. But once we get that set up, we'll start doing a little bit more audio stuff so I can call some people. It's difficult to come out to places that aren't local to me. But yeah, just trying to take this as big as we can and make this another
It's
success
going to
story.
happen. If
Absolutely.
you dream it, it'll happen. Remember, I was a 29-year-old guy with 2 little kids, said, I'm going to work in the NASCAR business. Woohoo! And suckered my wife into doing it. It took a few years, but I had a 5-year plan. I made it in 3.
Hey.
So it could happen. You could go. You're doing a great job. I mean, every time I've ever heard you announce a race, I remember you were just a kid announcing at Zoo City.
Broken shoulder and everything. Yeah.
Your dad and I are talking there, and I'm like, God, who's announcing, man? This guy's getting. That's my broke up son in the booth. You got to be kidding me. I mean, I knew it was your calling. So you're doing a great job, and it's good to see, man. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. I can't thank you enough. Yeah, it's kind of funny how it all worked out, but I'm going to talk about it either way, so I might as well let other people hear it. And so
there you go.
We're going to just try to keep doing this thing and see where it goes from here.
Perfect.
So with that, guys, this has been episode 7. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever it is that you can do it, please. Leave some comments if I did something wrong. I don't think I said as many this time.
I only had like 6 of them on myself that I counted.
Okay, yeah. So we've been trying to keep count of it, but I'm doing a little better. So any criticism, anything like that, there's one.
There it is.
Oh, I ruined it. And so please let us know and reach out. There's another one. We'll be back next week before I say another one. Thanks, guys. Thanks to Cal and Doreen.
Oh, man, thank you.
Check them out, FTI. We're going to link all their stuff in. And, we'll see you guys around the races.
Sounds good.
Awesome.